Hi, and welcome to the She Geeks Out podcast, where we geek out about workplace inclusion and talk with brilliant humans doing great work, making the world a better and brighter place. I'm Felicia.
And I'm Rachel, and today we are joined by the lovely and delightful Giselle Pardo, a dedicated social worker and advocate currently leading critical efforts in response to ICE raids impacting communities in New York City. Her work focuses on supporting vulnerable populations, advancing equity, and addressing the real world impacts of systemic harm. We dive into the importance of social work, especially now, how and why we as a society devalue it, and what we can all do to support each other during these incredibly difficult times. We cannot wait to have you listen to it. But of course, we got
Let's
things.
get into it.
We're getting into it. We got things. Felicia, what is today's date?
What is even timing? Monday, July 28th. It is 3:04 p.m.
And we just looked at the news.
Yeah. I think this conversation is so timely, just given everything that's happening. And, today, what we were just talking about before we hit record on this little intro of ours is just, there's so much to talk about in terms of what's going on in the world. But I think a particular importance to highlight is I was just telling you, it seems like there's been a really dramatic and real, perhaps, shift and like tide change in terms of how collectively we're talking about Gaza and Palestine and the genocide that's happening there with Israel. And I don't know, I have some ideas and thoughts as to why this shift seems to have happened, but it's been a really interesting thing to witness, especially online and social media, because, this is nothing new, but it does seem like the conversation is changing. Have you
Okay.
noticed this shift at all?
Well, yeah, literally the headline is, straight up like shocking. Trump saying that there's real starvation in Gaza. Like,
You
I
know what?
cannot.
Even a broken clock can hit twice a day. So
But I am curious as to, and I think the pictures were shocking, and it is frankly like a little comforting to know that there are still visuals that will impact people in this time when I think there's just so much like a lack of empathy or a lack of belief that either they're real, or a lack of empathy in that, well, it's not happening to me, so I'm just going to worry about myself. So I'm
yeah.
just curious as to why you think some of these things are happening now.
Yeah, well, just to quickly double click on what you just
Yeah.
said before I give some of my ideas and thoughts, I do think that I agree with you because I think that there is definitely been a desensitization. I can't say that word well,
That's a
but
tough one. It's a biggie.
I know it's a tough one. It's a tough life that we're leading, but you know what I mean. I do think that collectively we have been desensitized to seeing images of violence come across our feed. So I think that to your point, it is in some ways, yes, comforting to know that we can still be shocked by what we see, even though that doesn't mean that that's a good thing necessarily. But on the other hand, these pictures I don't think are any less shocking than what we've been seeing, and not just in the last 2 years, but in the last, however many years you want to look at, where we've been able to see images of war from different places around the world, not just in Gaza. So I think that part of it is, so why do I think this is happening? So I do think that part of it is that, and this is not going to be, I think, a nice thing to say, but I think that things have progressed too far. And I think that now people who have not spoken up yet are seeing that it's too late for Palestinians in a lot of ways. So it's become safe to speak up, whereas before it
Mm.
was as safe. And what do I mean by it's gone too far and it's safe? Well, even if we're able to, if Israel were to open up the blockades and allow all the aid that is possibly available and all the ships and all the food that's sitting there waiting, in a lot of ways it is too late, because these people are now at the point where they cannot just eat food. They have to be reintegrated into bringing nutrition back into their bodies. And so, we talk about like the final solution, like we're at that point now. And so even if this afternoon everything changes, we'll still see mass death happening. And I do think that there are a lot of people who, now that we're at this tipping point, seeing this happen are like, oh, okay, now the tide has shifted. And so, like, with this blood on the hands, I will speak up now when it doesn't really make a difference. And I think we're seeing a lot of that come out where we're seeing influencers and regular people and all sorts of people. Like, there was this Jenna Kutcher, I'm not that familiar with her, but she posted a whole thing online about, like, why I didn't speak up until now. And it was so wimpy, in all honesty. Like, oh, I was afraid of losing, business or whatever. And I mean, you and I had made a very early decision in October
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago when the initial attack happened, October 7th, and we talked about it at length, and we decided that we had to say something. And I mean, I remember feeling obligated, and not even, that's not the right word, compelled to speak up, because it's not that anything dramatically changed, but our eyes were really sort of, open to a lot of what was happening. And we did get pushback from people. We got backlash, and I had
Yep.
a lot of people reaching out to me privately who were really unhappy with what I was saying, both on behalf of the company and personally, and arguing with me, and telling me I was wrong to say what I was saying. And I think that that was 2 years ago. And there were so many more people out there who have been more vocal, and more, have had more to lose and have lost more than we have. But I think now it's become safer, now that people are really seeing this shift where they're like, oh, I got to scramble to sort of like get it in under the wire, so that when we have this reckoning, which is happening, I will be seen to have been on the right side of history.
Mm.
So that's kind of like my high level thought.
So dark, so dark.
It
Uh,
is dark.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting because I would say, I think it was last week even, there was an op-ed in the New York Times that was like, oh, it just really was so uncool. It was like, it's not a genocide. Don't call what's happening in Palestine a genocide. And I clicked it to see, and it was like, well, not enough people have been killed yet. If Israel really wanted to kill everyone, they would have just bombed like done more, I guess. And I'm just like,
I mean, they've
what
done plenty, first of
what
all.
what kind of a sick thought is that? Is like, oh well, it's not a like, and it really does make me think about the media's role in all of this and how
Absolutely.
it's so
Absolutely.
complicit. Yeah, and it really hasn't been, and I just want to give props out to The Guardian, who has been steadfast in their commitment to reporting as much as they can about this, and doing some really beautiful work. And I think they have been way ahead of the curve, well beyond most of the standard American media on it. And I do remember having conversations with people. Look, I'm half Jewish, and I have certainly had conversations with many people who know people who are in Israel. I haven't had a conversation with them, I will say, in the past year or so about this topic. Um, in a very similar way to, like, it's when I have had the conversations, there has been a real difficulty in agreeing on truth and facts. And
Mm,
it does remind me of like the MAGA conversations, the truth and facts. And, just this denial. I mean, I remember asking someone who we had this conversation about, who was so upset about this portrayal of Israel as, committing genocide or being the aggressors, and not just the defenders, right? And I said, well, I remember when Amnesty International came out, and and Ireland came out, and asked us, what incentive do they have to say that? And the fallback answer was always, well, they're just anti-Semitic, period, which, as we know, is
it's become a
problematic.
dog whistle. Yeah.
Yes, and it's, yeah, for many reasons it's problematic because
On many different levels, indeed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it is interesting to see, because for me, seeing the pictures come out now, and as someone who is probably more skeptical of what is happening in the media than I have ever been, it's my own naivete. Um, I do question the timing around this happening, and I do feel like with Epstein there is a connection as far as this distraction. Um, is it being used as that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it does feel suspicious to me.
Yeah, but it's hard because like, and I agree with you to a certain extent, and I'm like, but we've been seeing horrifying pictures all along, right? Like,
Well, to be clear, Felicia, you have, right? I think if you, because have consistently looked at, I go on CNN almost daily. I go on The Guardian. I go on the New York Times. I go on them, and they are not front page news, not until literally this past week.
well, and I think, yeah, and but that I think speaks to your point around how the media has been treating
That's
this.
right.
Because I just remember, again, 2 years ago, um, it was inescapable all over my social media because people who lived in Gaza and Palestine had technology and phones and were posting and sharing their stories and posting videos, and it was draining. And I don't say that to say like, oh, poor me, but like it was in your face if you looked for it. And I'm just thinking of, and not to like go down a gory, like war porn kind of thing. But like, I just remember seeing images of families holding their
Yeah.
children in plastic
Yeah.
bags.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
so it's like,
Yeah.
If that's not a picture that's going to get you, then like, it's
But
like a
it's to the point
struggle.
though. But Felicia, it's to the point where you were seeing that the algorithm was feeding you. They were not feeding everyone else. And so you even more than myself and many others, right? You have tailored your algorithm to
No,
see
that's
this.
true. You're right. Yeah. And then I think that's partially why it's been so frustrating for, again, not just me personally, but folks who are in this space of being plugged in and open and aware and having their algorithms already set up in ways to show this kind of stuff, because it's been like, oh my God, like why isn't everyone freaking out the way we are? And and to that point of like, why now with the media shifts, like, we'll probably never know for sure. But I just go back to like that idea of it's too late in a lot of ways. So now it's become safe for the establishments to finally start to
Well,
like,
and
talk about it.
that's possible. I will say the other thing could be um, the credible sources of where these images and videos are coming from, right? So this is why the media is so important, because if you have journalists that are verifying, that are taking the images and the videos and verifying that these are real, right? Because there's such a skepticism.
Yeah, but it goes back to the point of like, what is truth and what is facts? Because,
Yes.
and like, again, like, I mean, you and I are on the same page, so I know like we're not arguing about this for anyone.
No,
What's happening right now? But
not at all.
it's obviously there's a lot of emotion and there's a lot of stuff around this, but like there have been journalists all along, and that's why again, like people have been so upset and overwhelmed and frustrated because Israel has literally bombed the journalists
Yes.
and killed people who in all other instances have been protected by international conduct and laws and agreements saying you don't kill Red Cross volunteers, you don't kill EMTs and healthcare workers, you don't kill journalists. And they're like, sorry, and so I think that's why it's again, like maybe it's been enough and enough and enough that's built to a tipping point. But there have been people all along who have been like, okay, sure, like, can we trust a random TikTok video of someone asking for help? Maybe, maybe not. I veer towards yes, but I understand that can be questionable. But there have been verified sources all along, and there was the documentary that won the award at the Oscars this
Yes.
past year. And then I can't remember, but I think that either one of those documentary filmmakers either got killed or was beat up or whatever, was attacked. And it's like there are verified sources that have been since day one talking about this. I mean, even if you look at groups like World Central Kitchen, which has been there, and they're saying we're running out of food, we can't feed people, like doctors who've been saying, you're bombing the hospital. So it's just I think that it is really interesting to see again this shift happening in real time. And I think it goes back to what I wanted to say earlier with that idea of like, have we been overwhelmed and like desensitized to images that are so horrible? The other element, which is real that we need to address, is that AI generated images are fully part of this discussion and this reality. And there are AI images that are floating out there that are not real, that are showing horrible things. And I don't know about you, Rachel, but like I'm finding it harder and harder to distinguish between what is real and what is AI generated because they're getting better at it. And so it's still, I think, relatively okay to understand. You're like, oh, this image doesn't quite look right, or like Rachel Maddow's not actually wading through the waters of Texas, but
But
holding.
so this,
It's tricky.
this is exactly why having media institutions be like this is why some of these systems are important. Like this is exactly why, because as much as we all want everything to be fractured, that's great, but if we don't have trusted institutions, if we can't trust in them, then we don't know what's true. And that is such a huge loss, and it is in large part the fault of the actual media companies for creating an environment that has us question reality. I'm honestly like Fox is like an easy target, but like the other
But
ones
I
are,
mean, let's talk the New York Times. Like
they're all culpable. Like,
they all have issues, and I agree with you. And I think, and when we look at, again, you and I are no fans, but we look at who is in charge in the United States, and just what was it yesterday, a few days ago, Trump tweeted out, or whatever, Truth Socialed out, a doctored. Did you see this doctored image of Obama
they
and
have to stop calling it truth, by the way, and they need to start calling them lied.
fake social? Yeah, in his lie social, like he put this picture up where it was like him and Vance and cars
Oh, I can't
following chasing
even.
him.
I cannot.
The
This is,
reason I want
I
to,
feel like I need to put like a warning
I know,
on
like a
the
trigger
post.
warning. Well,
Seriously.
but what is, and this is where like you just have to laugh sometimes because it's so like ridiculous, this world that we live in. But what did make me laugh actually was in this dumb picture that he put out there, which is obviously fake. It's not real, of course. But again, there are people out there who I'm sure thought it was real. He used for the headshot of Vance in the car, that really terrible photo of Vance that has been doctored, where he like looks like a balloon man, kind of. Have you seen this picture?
Yeah, I just can't.
It's
Honestly,
ridiculous.
I just cannot. Like the stuff that is coming out, it's just it is it is again, I just feel like it is all just like the final death throes of just the institutions that are gonna have to come down. Not to get all woo, but like
We're here. Let's get woo.
we are here. We are here. We are in it. And I just feel like it is not sustainable. The experiences that we are having collectively are there is such a shift. And I'm actually really excited to have the future conversations that we are going to have with some of our other upcoming guests, because it is all breaking. It is all breaking, and we can all feel it, and it's causing massive stress and anxiety. And I just truly hope that we can all come out of this um better on the other side.
I hope we can come out at all. But yeah, I mean, it comes down to critical thinking and, holding space for all of it and having boundaries, and also not shying away from it either, because it's not something to ignore. It's, what is the messaging? Do we believe it? Do we agree with it? There's a person I follow online, Matt Bernstein. I think his Instagram handle, or his handle, is Matt XIV, which is a great resource. Highly recommend following if you don't already. But he had put a post up recently, which was like sort of the arguments of a Zionist in 4 chapters, and it just I won't go through it all, but it outlines how a message shifts over time. In this case, with regards to Palestine again, and killing children, and you see just how like the way we talk about things and the words that we use and the framing that we use has real impact on how we emotionally handle things, how we think about it, how we respond, how we react. And he ends his post with a quote from George Orwell, which is, "The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command." And that's kind of where we're at right now. It's not even kind of, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out when you have people that are waking up from this fever dream of reality that is like so far from many other people's reality. And my genuine hope is that we all can realize what what the true real enemy is, which is deception, which is abuse of power, which is
Dehumanization.
dehumanization, lack of respect and kindness, and just being cruel. You know, the cruelty is the thing that I continue to come back to as something that I just cannot. It just breaks my heart. Honestly, it just breaks my heart. I mean, you could take any of it. There's so much, there's whether it's what we're going to be talking about soon with Giselle and ICE, and then on a more basic and longer term um view of just the devaluation of the work that she does, the social work,
Mhm.
right? Like that valuing of human life. We
Yeah.
don't do it, as opposed to all the acute stuff that is happening. Yeah, this is so dark. I'm so sad. I'm like, should we even leave this in?
I think we should.
Listeners.
It's important because it is sad, but sometimes, and a lot of times actually, not even just sometimes, this is the work, is holding, like I talk a lot about holding space, and I
Yeah.
think that's why it can be so hard,
Yeah.
because you're not always holding space for joy or laughter or fun. It is holding space for the hard stuff, and we're living through what in our lifetimes I can safely, I think, say is the hardest point we've ever had to live through. And a lot of people are not living through this moment.
Yeah.
So I say leave it in, because it's important to acknowledge it. And, I think it is certainly, this is not the end all be all of this conversation. It is a longer conversation that's going to continue to happen between us, between everyone else. And, the only thing I just wanted to say really quickly before we shift into hearing from Giselle about stuff that's going a little bit closer to home is there are a lot of people who are speaking up now, who are realizing, who are understanding or changing their minds, or realizing that maybe what they thought was true is not true at all or fully true. And I think what we have to remember in the future is not that these people get a pass because they're finally awake to what's going on, but that we maintain a sense of accountability and we still welcome them in, because if we reject people who are fully coming to it now, that's not going to get us to where we need to be. And that is a
Yeah.
really, really difficult balance to hold. And, it's another thing we have to hold space for too, is the fact that
Yeah.
we can be so upset and horrified and angry that only now are people using their voice or speaking up or understanding, and we have to at the same time welcome them in, because like you and I talk about this with regards to the training that we do, right? We say like, and I say all the time, I'm like, I don't necessarily need to change your mind, but I want you to listen to me. And that's, people are at different points in their learning journey. And so this is
Yeah.
like it's not even like a learning journey, it's just like an awareness journey. But if it's now that they're coming aware, okay, great. I'd rather it be today than tomorrow. But at the same time, that doesn't negate accountability for how we came to this moment. So
Yeah. Well
it's a
said.
longer conversation for another time.
I'm sure we'll have it. I'm sure we'll have it.
Well, Giselle, we got to shift gears. Let's bring it back to a little bit closer to home, at least, I mean, closer to me, not necessarily closer to you, but
New
Giselle's.
York was always in my heart.
I know. Yeah.
And
Uh,
yeah, no, we're excited to have Giselle. And to all of you who are listening, we have time stamped this. So if you forwarded, great. We totally get it. And
but
if not, thank you for listening.
If you need to take a quick break before you dive into more not so necessarily fun stuff, take a break, pause. But then Giselle is a great conversation. We're so excited to have her and to have had this chance to chat with her about her work and what she's been doing. So I guess without further ado, welcome to the show, Giselle.
Yay.